you enjoyed this podcast, please consider liking, sharing, and subscribing to the channel. Sharing it with your friends and family helps spread knowledge, and when we help others grow, we grow too. Thank you so much for listening. Let's dive into the podcast. Chapter 1. The Cosmic Stage is Set. Part 1. The Breath of Creation. Prajāpati and the Emergence of Countless Realms. In the beginning, before time itself took shape, there was only the vast emptiness of space. From this silence came Prajāpati, the Lord of all creation. He existed alone in the cosmic waters, holding within himself the power to bring forth all life. Prajāpati breathed out, and from his breath came the first sounds of creation. These sounds became the sacred words that would shape all worlds. With each breath, new forms of life took shape. With each word he spoke, new realms came into being. The ancient texts tell us that Prajāpati did not create just one world, but countless worlds. He made realms above our earth and realms below it. He created worlds of light and worlds of darkness. In each realm, he placed different kinds of beings to live and grow. First came the Devas, beings of pure light who serve the cosmic order. Then came the Asuras, powerful beings who challenge and test this order. Both kinds of beings received great strength and knowledge from their creator. Prajāpati continued his work, breathing life into every corner of existence. He created the Gandharvas, who fill the air with divine music. He made the Apsaras, celestial dancers who move between the worlds. He formed the Nagas, wise serpent beings who guard the treasures of the earth. Each breath of Prajāpati brought forth new forms of intelligence. Some beings he made to dwell in fire, others to live in water. Some he placed in the wind itself, while others found their home among the stars. The sacred writings teach us that this creation never stops. Prajāpati continues to breathe, and with each breath, new universes come into being. When he breathes in, entire worlds return to him. When he breathes out again, they emerge once more, fresh and full of possibilities. Our Earth is just one small part of this endless creation. Above us stretch the heavenly realms, where beings of great wisdom and power make their homes. Below us lie other worlds with their own forms of life and their own purposes in the grand design. Time itself moves in great circles in this cosmic pattern. What seems like the end of one world is really just the beginning of another. Prajāpati's breath ensures that creation never truly ends, but always continues in new forms. The ancient seers who received these teachings understood that we are not alone in this vast universe. They saw clearly that Prajāpati's creative power extends far beyond what our eyes can see. In every direction, in dimensions we cannot imagine, life flourishes under his care. This is the foundation of all existence, the endless breath of the cosmic creator, bringing forth worlds without number, each filled with beings suited to their realm and purpose. Part 2. Devas and Asuras, the first cosmic rivalry. When Prajāpati's breath brought forth the countless worlds, it did not create all beings with the same nature. From the very beginning of time, two great groups emerged from the cosmic waters. These were the Devas and the Asuras, children of the same creator, yet destined to be eternal rivals. The Devas were born as beings of light and order. They loved truth and followed the sacred laws that keep the universe in balance. The word Deva itself means shining one, for their nature was bright and pure like the dawn. They sought to protect and preserve all that was good in creation. Their home was in the higher realms, where light never fails and harmony rules. The Asuras were their brothers, but they chose a different path. They were not evil by birth, but they opposed the divine order. Where the Devas brought light, the Asuras brought darkness. Where the Devas built, the Asuras sought to tear down. The name Asura means mighty one, for they possessed great power. Yet they used this power to challenge the cosmic laws. In the beginning, Both groups were equal in strength and wisdom. They both desired the nectar of immortality, the precious soma that would grant eternal life. They both wanted to rule over the worlds that Prajāpati had created. This desire led to their first great battle, which would set the pattern for all conflicts to come. The sacred texts tell us that this rivalry was not just a war between two armies. It was the very force that keeps the universe moving. Like a great wheel that turns between day and night, the struggle between Devas and Asuras creates the rhythm of all existence. When the Devas gain strength, righteousness grows in the world. When the Asuras rise, chaos and disorder follow. This cosmic battle affects every realm, including our earthly world. Humans feel its effects in their daily lives, in the choice between good and evil, truth and falsehood, order and chaos. The ancient seers understood that we are not merely observers of this struggle, we are participants in it, and our actions help determine which side will prevail. The Devas and Asuras do not fight with earthly weapons alone. They use powers beyond human understanding. They can change their forms at will, travel between worlds in moments, and command forces of nature. Their battles shake the foundations of reality itself, sending ripples through all the realms that Prajāpati created. Both sides seek allies among other beings throughout the cosmos. They influence kingdoms and civilizations across different worlds. The stories tell of how they approach human kings and sages, offering gifts of power in exchange for loyalty. This shows us that the cosmic rivalry extends far beyond any single realm. The ancient texts make clear that this struggle will continue as long as creation itself endures. Neither side can achieve complete victory, for the universe needs both order and chaos, both preservation and change. This eternal dance between opposing forces keeps all worlds alive and growing. Through this first great rivalry, the sacred teachings show us that conflict and cooperation exist at every level of reality. The Devas and Asuras, though enemies, are both necessary parts of the cosmic plan. Their struggle reminds us that even in the vast reaches of space, intelligence takes many forms, and not all of them share the same goals or nature. Part 3. Lokas Beyond Earth, Mapping the Multiverse. The ancient sages tell us that what we see with our eyes is only a small part of what truly exists. Beyond this Earth, there are 14 worlds arranged in layers above and below us. Each world has its own nature, its own beings, and its own purpose in the great plan of creation. Above our world rise 7 higher realms. The closest is Svarga, where the Devas dwell in great beauty and joy. Their cities shine with light that never fades, and time moves differently there than it does here. Above Svarga lies Maharloka, where great sages live in bodies made of light. Higher still is Janaloka, home to the sons of Brahma who guide the course of creation. At the very top stands Satyaloka, also called Brahmaloka, where the Creator himself resides in perfect knowledge. Below our earth stretch 7 lower worlds. First comes Atala, then Vitala, Sutala, Talatala, Mahatala, Rasatala, and finally Patala at the bottom. These are not empty places, but full of life. Great serpent beings called Nagas rule in the lower realms. Their cities rival those of the Devas in splendor, with palaces carved from precious stones and gardens that bloom with flowers unknown on Earth. Each world connects to the others through invisible paths. Beings travel between these realms according to their nature and actions. What happens in one world affects all the others, like ripples spreading through water. The wars between Devas and Asuras shake all 14 worlds. When great sages perform their practices, the effects reach from the lowest realm to the highest. The sacred texts describe these worlds with precise detail. They tell of the size of each realm, the kinds of beings who live there, and how time passes differently in each place. In some worlds, a single day equals 1,000 years on Earth. In others, entire ages pass in what feels like moments. This vision sees existence not as one lonely world floating in empty space, but as a vast community of living realms. Each world serves its purpose in maintaining the balance of all creation. The beings in each realm have their roles to play in the cosmic order. What the ancient seers knew long ago, modern thinkers now begin to understand. The idea of many worlds existing alongside our own no longer seems impossible. Science speaks of parallel dimensions and multiple universes. The old wisdom that taught of 14 interconnected realms points toward truths that we are only now beginning to grasp. The multiverse that Hindu knowledge describes accepts as natural what others might find strange. That consciousness and life exist in forms and places beyond our current understanding. This ancient map of reality prepared minds to accept that we share existence with countless other beings, each playing their part in the endless dance of creation. Part 4. Rishis, Mantras, and Contact with the Divine. In the time before time, wise men called Rishis walked the earth. These seers possessed eyes that could see beyond the world of matter. They knew how to speak with beings who lived in the spaces between stars and in realms above the clouds. The Rishis did not find it strange to speak with Devas, the bright ones who governed the forces of nature. They spoke as easily with these cosmic beings as a person speaks with a friend. Through sacred words called mantras and through years of discipline called tapas, they opened doorways to other worlds. When the Rishis sat in deep silence, their minds became still like a calm lake. In this stillness, they heard voices from far places. The Devas would whisper secrets of creation. They shared knowledge about how stars are born and how life moves through the endless cycles of time. The sacred hymns of the Rigveda tell us how these conversations happened. In one hymn, Agni, the being of fire, speaks directly to the Rishis. He tells them about his journeys through all the worlds. In another, Indra, lord of storms and rain, shares the victories he won in battles fought in distant realms. These were not prayers spoken into empty air. They were real exchanges between human minds and cosmic intelligence. The Rishis would chant sacred sounds, and these sounds would carry their thoughts across vast distances to reach beings of light and power. The mantra was their technology for communication. Each sound carried meaning beyond words. When properly spoken with right intention, these vibrations could cross the barriers between different levels of reality. The Rishis understood that sound itself was alive and could travel where physical bodies could not go. Through years of practice, the seers learned to leave their physical forms behind. Their consciousness could rise to meet the Devas in their own domains. They saw cities of light floating in space. They witnessed councils where cosmic beings made decisions that would affect all creation. The Devas shared knowledge freely with those who proved worthy. They taught about the movements of planets and the inner workings of matter. They revealed how consciousness itself was the foundation of all existence. They showed how life could take countless forms across the universe. This contact was not worship from below looking up to unreachable gods. It was dialogue between different forms of conscious beings. The Rishis served as messengers, bringing divine knowledge back to humanity. They translated cosmic wisdom into words that earthbound minds could understand. The sacred texts preserve these ancient conversations. When we read them now, we find descriptions that sound like reports from other worlds. The Rishis describe beings who travel through space in vehicles of light. They tell of councils held in realms where time moves differently than on Earth. What seems impossible to us was natural to them. They lived in a time when the boundaries between worlds were thin. Communication with higher intelligence was part of their daily spiritual practice. They expected to receive guidance from cosmic sources, just as we expect the sun to rise each morning. Part 5. The Language of Light, Vimanas and Celestial Technology. In the sacred texts, we learn of wondrous vehicles called Vimanas. These are not ordinary chariots drawn by horses. The ancient scriptures describe them as flying crafts made of divine materials that shine with their own light. The Vedas tell us that these Vimanas could travel through the air at great speed. They moved between the earth and the heavenly realms above. Some could journey to distant worlds beyond what the eye can see. The texts say they made sounds like thunder when they moved through the sky. In the great epic called the Ramayana, we read about Ravana's Vimana called Pushpaka. This celestial vehicle could fly anywhere its master wished to go. It was beautiful to look upon, decorated with gold and precious stones. It could change its size to carry one person or many. When Rama defeated Ravana, he used this same Vimana to return home to Ayodhya with Sita. The Mahabharata speaks of many such flying vehicles. The gods used them to travel between worlds. Warriors who pleased the gods were sometimes given rides in these divine crafts. The text describes how they moved without touching the ground, guided by the will of their divine pilots. Some Vimanas were said to be weapons of war. They could shoot fire and light that destroyed enemies below. Others were peaceful, used by sages and gods to visit different realms. The scriptures tell us these vehicles could become invisible when needed. They could also travel faster than the wind. The ancient texts describe how these Vimanas were powered. Some used the force of wind, captured in special chambers. Others drew energy from the sun's rays through crystal devices. Many required mantras or sacred sounds to operate properly. Only those with divine knowledge could control them safely. When the gods wished to visit Earth, they descended in their bright Vimanas. When humans earned the right to visit heaven, the gods would send these vehicles to carry them upward. This is how the worthy dead reach the realm of their ancestors. This is how living saints sometimes visited the gods while still in their earthly bodies. The texts make clear that these were not mere symbols or dreams. The ancient writers describe them with specific details about their construction, their sounds, and their movements. They tell us exactly how they looked and how they functioned. They record the names of those who owned them and the journeys they made. These Vimanas served as bridges between worlds. They allowed divine beings to reach Earth when needed. They carried human souls to their proper destinations after death. They transported messages and gifts between realms. Without them, the connection between heaven and earth would have been broken. The sacred stories present these flying vehicles as natural parts of the cosmic order. Just as birds fly through the air and fish swim in water, so the gods travel in their Vimanas through space. The texts treat them as expected tools of divine beings, no more strange than a boat is to those who live by rivers. Chapter 2. Encounters Across Myth and Epic, Part 1. The Gandharvas Songs and Apsaras Dance. In the great halls of heaven, where the gods gather in splendor, the sound of music fills the air. The Gandharvas come with their instruments, their voices sweet like honey. They are not men like us, yet they are not gods either. They live between the earth and the highest heaven, making songs that can move mountains and calm storms. The Apsaras dance before them, their forms more beautiful than any earthly woman. Their feet barely touch the ground as they move, their clothes made of light itself. When they smile, flowers bloom in the air around them. When they weep, their tears become pearls. These beings do not stay only in heaven. They come down to our world whenever they wish. The great sage Vishwamitra was performing hard penance in the forest when Menaka, the most beautiful of all Apsaras, came down from heaven. She walked through the trees like moonlight walking on water. The sage saw her and forgot his prayers. From their meeting came a daughter, Shakuntala, who would later become the mother of great kings. King Pururavas was hunting in the forest when he heard singing like no earthly voice could make. Following the sound, he found 3 Apsaras dancing by a clear pond. One was Urvashi, whose beauty could make the sun stop in the sky. She looked at the king, and her heart stirred with feelings she had never known. They loved each other for many years, and their sons became rulers of the earth. But these heavenly beings also come to test us. When the great sage Vishwamitra had become so powerful through his prayers that even the gods feared him, they sent Ramba, another Apsara, to disturb his meditation. She came to him dressed in clothes that shimmered like starlight, her voice soft like wind through flowers. But the sage knew why she had come and cursed her to become stone. The Gandharvas teach music to those who are worthy. Prince Arjuna learned to sing and dance from them when he spent time in heaven with his father Indra. They showed him songs that could make weapons appear from thin air and melodies that could heal any wound. Sometimes these beings marry earthly people. The princess Sukanya married the Gandharva king Chitrasena. Their children could fly through the air and speak with animals. Such marriages show us that the wall between our world and theirs is not solid like stone, but soft like morning mist. In the great war at Kurukshetra, Gandharvas and Apsaras watched from the sky. They sang songs of victory for the righteous and wept for the brave who fell. Their music mixed with the sounds of battle, making even war beautiful and terrible at the same time. These beings show us that we are not alone in the vast spaces of creation. Above us, around us, beings of light and song move freely between worlds. They remind us that the boundary between earth and heaven is not fixed. Love, beauty, and art flow freely between all worlds, connecting every living thing in one great dance of existence. Part 2. Nagas beneath the earth and the cosmic serpent. Beneath the earth, in the deepest realms called Patala, live the Nagas. These beings have the head and arms of humans, but the body of great serpents. They rule the underworld with power that equals the gods above. Their king is Vasuki, the cosmic serpent who carries the worlds on his mighty coils. The Nagas possess treasures beyond count. Gems and gold fill their underground palaces. They guard ancient wisdom that few beings know. Some Nagas help humans and gods when called upon. Others bring danger and death to those who cross their paths. Their bite can kill or heal, depending on their will. When the gods and demons decided to churn the ocean of milk to get the nectar of life, they needed a rope strong enough for this great task. They asked Vasuki to be their rope. The king of serpents agreed. The mountain Mandara became their churning rod. The gods held Vasuki's tail and the demons held his head. They pulled back and forth, churning the cosmic ocean. Fire poured from Vasuki's mouth as they churned. The poison that came out could destroy all creation. Lord Shiva drank this poison to save the universe, and his throat turned blue from its power. Finally, the nectar appeared, along with many divine gifts. The Nagas move freely between the earth and the underworld. They can take human form when they choose. Many stories tell of Naga kings marrying human women and human men falling in love with Naga princesses. These marriages create bonds between our world and theirs. In great wars between gods and demons, the Nagas choose sides. Some fight with the gods, others with the demons. Their knowledge of secret passages through the earth makes them valuable allies. They know ways to travel that others cannot find. The coils of the great serpent Shesha hold up the entire universe. When Shesha moves, earthquakes shake the world. Vishnu rests upon Shesha's coils between the cycles of creation. This shows how the serpent power supports all life. Nagas appear to humans in dreams and visions. They offer boons to those who honor them and curses to those who harm serpents. Their realm beneath our feet reminds us that creation has many levels. What seems solid earth above hides vast kingdoms below. These serpent beings bridge the gap between Earth and the cosmic depths. They show that intelligence takes many forms across the universe. From the deepest caves to the highest heavens, beings of wisdom and power dwell in realms beyond our common sight. Part 3. Giant Visitors, Rakshasas, Daityas, and Beings of Other Realms. In the ancient tales, great beings from distant realms came to our world. These were not like the gentle Nagas who lived beneath our feet. These were the Rakshasas, Daityas, and Asuras. They came as invaders from beyond our earthly home. The Rakshasas stood tall as giants among men. Their forms twisted in ways that frightened mortal eyes. Some had faces that looked backward. Others bore multiple heads and arms. Their strength surpassed that of ordinary humans. They could change their shapes at will and move through the sky without wings. Most fearsome among them was Ravana, the 10-headed king of Lanka. His city stood far across the ocean waters, but Lanka was no ordinary place. Golden towers reached toward the heavens. Gardens bloomed with flowers unknown on earth. The very air hummed with powers beyond human understanding. Ravana commanded great flying machines called Vimanas. These vehicles soared through clouds and stars. They carried weapons that could destroy entire armies with single strikes. Fire rained from the sky when Ravana's forces moved to war. The sound of their approach shook mountains and dried rivers. The Daityas came from even stranger realms. Born from the womb of Diti, they grew to enormous size. Their bodies gleamed like burnished metal. Some had skin of gold. Others shone with silver light. They possessed knowledge of arts unknown to humans. They could create illusions that fooled the wisest sages. These giant beings did not come in peace. They sought to rule over gods and mortals alike. They built great cities in hidden places. From these strongholds, they launched attacks on the kingdoms of both heaven and earth. Their wars raged across many worlds. The Asuras brought with them sciences that amazed and terrified. They knew how to harness the power of wind and lightning. They could make themselves invisible or grow large as mountains. Some could split their bodies into many forms. Others could travel instantly from one place to another. When these beings walked among humans, the earth trembled. Rivers changed their course. Seasons shifted out of their proper order. Animals fled to distant forests. Even the bravest warriors felt fear grip their hearts. Yet not all interactions brought only destruction. Some Asuras taught humans new arts. They shared knowledge of building and crafting. They revealed secrets of medicine and astronomy. But always, their gifts came with a price. They sought to bind humans to their will. The great heroes of our tales stood against these invaders. Rama faced Ravana and his demon army. The Pandavas fought against Asura champions. In each battle, the fate of our world hung in balance. These were not merely fights between men. They were cosmic struggles between different kinds of beings. The victories of our heroes protected our realm from conquest. They preserved Dharma against forces that would twist it to alien purposes. Through their courage, the boundaries between our world and theirs remained guarded. These ancient accounts speak of times when the barriers between worlds grew thin. Giant visitors crossed those boundaries, bringing both wonder and terror. Their presence reminded all beings that our universe holds many forms of life, not all of them friendly to human flourishing. Part 4. Arjuna's Journey Beyond Earth, the Mahabharata's Cosmic Encounters. When Arjuna stood in the great battle ready to begin, his father Indra came to him. But Indra was not merely a distant god. He was the ruler of Svarga, the heavenly realm that exists beyond our earthly world. Indra spoke to his son with urgency. The battle ahead would need weapons that no earthly warrior could provide. Only the divine weapons of the gods could match the power that Arjuna would face. Indra invited Arjuna to come with him to the celestial realm. This was not a journey that any ordinary human could make. Indra brought a vehicle unlike anything on Earth. It moved through the sky without wings, powered by forces that mortals did not understand. Arjuna stepped into this celestial vehicle and rose up from the world of humans into the realm of the gods. As they traveled through space, Arjuna saw wonders beyond imagination. The heavens stretched endlessly in all directions. Stars and worlds filled the darkness. The vehicle moved faster than any bird or arrow. Soon they reached Svarga, the city of the gods. In Svarga, Arjuna met beings who were not human, but who walked and spoke like humans. The Gandharvas lived there, beings who created music more beautiful than any earthly song. Their voices could charm the mind and heal the heart. They welcomed Arjuna as a guest worthy of honor. The Apsaras danced before him, celestial women whose beauty surpassed any mortal woman. Their movements flowed like water and fire combined. They danced not just with their bodies, but with light itself. Their presence filled the air with fragrance and wonder. Indra took Arjuna to the halls where the divine weapons were kept. These were not swords or bows made by human hands. These were Astras, weapons that commanded the forces of nature itself. One could call down fire from the sky. Another could split mountains. Some could destroy entire armies in a single moment. The gods taught Arjuna how to call upon these weapons. They shared knowledge that had never been given to humans before. This was not just the giving of tools. This was the sharing of power between different kinds of beings. The gods trusted Arjuna because they saw his pure heart and noble purpose. During his time in Svarga, Arjuna learned that the universe held many worlds like Earth. Each had its own beings, its own wisdom, its own struggles between good and evil. The gods watched over all these worlds. Sometimes they chose mortals from different realms to help in the great work of protecting Dharma. Arjuna realized that humans were not alone in the universe. They were part of a vast family of beings who could work together when righteousness was threatened. The alliance between Arjuna and the gods showed that barriers between different realms could be crossed when the cause was just. When his training was complete, Arjuna returned to Earth, carrying weapons and knowledge from beyond the stars. He had become a bridge between his human world and the celestial realm. The great battle would now be fought with power drawn from across the universe itself. Part 5. Krishna as the cosmic being, the universal form in Kurukshetra. On the battlefield of Kurukshetra, as armies stood ready for war, Arjuna spoke to Krishna with doubt filling his heart. He could not raise his bow against his own family and teachers. Krishna had given him wisdom about duty and the soul, but still Arjuna hesitated. Then Arjuna asked Krishna to show him his true divine form. He said, "If you think I can bear to see it, then reveal to me your eternal form, O Lord of all beings." Krishna smiled and said, "Behold, Arjuna, my divine forms. See hundreds and thousands of different shapes, divine and wonderful, shining in many colors and appearances." Then Krishna revealed his cosmic form, his Vishwarupa. Arjuna saw the entire universe within Krishna's body. He saw all the gods, all the sages, all living beings from every world and realm. He saw countless faces, countless eyes, countless arms reaching in all directions. In this vast form, Arjuna witnessed beings from worlds he had never imagined. Creatures of light danced alongside beings of shadow. Some had forms like humans. Others appeared as pure energy. Many had shapes that no earthly mind could understand. All of creation lived and moved within Krishna's infinite body. Arjuna saw past, present, and future happening at once. He watched stars being born and dying. He observed countless worlds spinning through space, each filled with its own forms of life. Beings traveled between these worlds like birds flying from tree to tree. The vision showed that consciousness connected all these different forms of life, from the smallest creature on Earth to the mightiest beings in distant realms. All shared the same divine spark. The universe was not empty space dotted with lonely planets. It was a living body where countless types of beings existed together. Time itself bent and twisted in Krishna's form. Arjuna saw how beings from different worlds had visited Earth throughout history. He watched as knowledge flowed between realms like rivers joining the ocean. Nothing existed alone. Everything was part of one cosmic family. The sight overwhelmed Arjuna with both wonder and fear. He said, "O Lord, I see within your form all the gods and beings, and all the varied creatures. I see you everywhere, with countless arms, bellies, faces, and eyes. You have no beginning, middle, or end." Krishna's universal form blazed brighter than 1,000 suns rising at once. Within this light, alien worlds and strange beings appeared as natural as flowers in a garden. The question of whether humans were alone in the universe vanished completely. How could anyone be alone when all existence lived within one divine consciousness? This vision transformed how humans understood their place in creation. They were not isolated on a single world, but part of an infinite cosmic community. Every star could harbor life. Every dimension could hold conscious beings. The universe itself was alive, filled with intelligence and purpose. When the vision ended, Krishna returned to his gentle human form. But Arjuna would never forget what he had seen. He now knew that the cosmos teemed with life beyond all imagination, and that consciousness was the thread connecting every being across all worlds and times. Chapter 3: Philosophical Interpretations and Hidden Sciences. Part 1: The Yogic Siddhas, humans who became otherworldly. In the ancient paths of yoga and spiritual practice, there lived beings who began as humans, but became something far greater. These were the Siddhas, the perfected ones, who through intense spiritual discipline transcended the limits of ordinary human existence. The sacred texts tell us that through tapas, the burning practice of spiritual discipline, these seekers gained powers beyond mortal understanding. They could rise into the air at will, travel instantly from one place to another across vast distances, and move freely between the different worlds that exist beyond our sight. Their bodies became light as air, their minds expanded beyond all boundaries, and their lives stretched far beyond the normal span of human years. The scriptures speak of one who practiced severe austerities for thousands of years in the mountains. Through his unwavering focus and discipline, he gained the ability to become invisible, to read the thoughts of others, and to know all things that happened across the three worlds. Another sage, through meditation and breath control, learned to shrink his body to the size of an atom or expand it to touch the clouds. These Siddhas did not die as ordinary humans do. Instead, they transformed their very being, keeping their bodies alive through spiritual power while gaining abilities that seemed impossible. They could travel to the realm of the gods, speak with celestial beings, and return to Earth with divine knowledge. Some chose to live in hidden places, in caves high in the mountains, or in forests where no common person could find them. The texts describe groups of these perfected beings who gathered together in realms invisible to normal sight. From these hidden places, they would sometimes appear to guide worthy seekers or to share knowledge when the world needed their help. They moved between dimensions as easily as walking from one room to another. These Siddhas represent the highest possibility of human transformation. They show that through dedicated practice and pure intention, a human being can develop abilities that make them seem like beings from another world entirely. They became bridges between the earthly realm and the divine realms, proving that the line between human and divine is not fixed, but can be crossed through spiritual effort. The ancient wisdom teaches that what we might today call supernatural powers are actually natural abilities that lie dormant within every human being. The Siddhas simply awakened these powers through their intense spiritual practice, transforming themselves into beings who possessed both human understanding and divine capabilities. These accounts raise profound questions about the nature of advanced beings and whether higher intelligence must always come from distant stars, or whether it can emerge from the transformation of human consciousness itself. Part 2. Astras and Vimanas, Myth or Ancient Advanced Technology. The ancient texts speak of weapons beyond human understanding and flying vessels that moved through the skies with divine power. These were not mere tools of war, but manifestations of cosmic forces that could reshape the very fabric of creation. In the great battles described in our holy books, warriors carried astras that held the power of the gods themselves. The Brahmastra could destroy entire armies with a single release, burning everything in its path with fires that would not die for many years. When Arjuna faced his enemies, he called upon weapons that blazed like 1,000 suns rising together in the sky. The earth shook, the heavens trembled, and all living beings fled in terror from the terrible light. These divine weapons were not given lightly. A warrior had to prove worthy through years of devotion and sacrifice before a god would grant such power. The Brahmastra required pure intention, for its force could turn upon an unworthy user and destroy them instead. Krishna warned that these weapons carried the weight of cosmic justice and would exact payment from any who used them without righteous cause. The texts describe how these astras worked through the power of sacred sounds and focused will. A warrior would speak the proper words with complete faith, and the weapon would manifest from the realm of the gods. Some astras took the form of blazing arrows that never missed their target. Others became walls of fire that could not be crossed. The most powerful could split mountains, dry up rivers, or call down storms that lasted for years. Along with these divine weapons, the holy books tell of Vimanas, flying chariots that carried gods and worthy humans across the vast distances of space. These were not simple carts, but magnificent vehicles with rooms inside, built from metals that never rusted and powered by forces that needed no fuel. The Pushpaka Vimana could change its size to carry one person or an entire army, moving as fast as thought from one world to another. Some Vimanas were described as having multiple levels, with gardens and pools inside, windows that showed the traveler any place they wished to see, and the ability to become invisible to enemies below. They moved without sound through the air and could travel to the highest heavens or the deepest regions under the earth with equal ease. The texts tell us that these vehicles responded to the thoughts and commands of their pilots. A pure-hearted person could direct the Vimana simply by concentrating on their destination. The craft would know the proper path and avoid all dangers along the way, protecting its passengers from the harsh conditions of space and the attacks of hostile beings. These descriptions serve as reminders that the divine realm operates by laws beyond our ordinary understanding, where consciousness itself becomes the tool through which impossible things become possible. Part 3. Time as the portal between worlds. Time flows differently in each world. The ancient texts tell us that what we call a day on Earth may be years in other realms. When beings from higher worlds visit our plane, they experience time in ways that seem impossible to us. The scriptures speak of 4 great ages called yugas. Each yuga lasts for thousands of years. Within these ages, time itself changes speed and quality. During Satya Yuga, the Golden Age, consciousness was pure and time moved slowly. Beings lived for thousands of years and could easily travel between worlds. As the ages declined through Treta and Dwapara to our current Kali Yuga, time began to move faster and the barriers between worlds grew stronger. Beyond the yugas, there are even greater cycles called kalpas. A single kalpa equals one day in the life of Brahma, the creator. This day lasts for over 4 billion earthly years. During this vast span, entire universes are born and destroyed countless times. What seems eternal to us is merely a brief moment in cosmic time. The texts record many instances of this time difference. Great sages would travel to the realm of Brahma to ask questions. They would spend what felt like minutes in conversation with the Creator. Upon returning to Earth, they would discover that centuries had passed. Their families had died and been reborn many times over. Entire kingdoms had risen and fallen while they were away. King Kakudmi took his daughter to Brahmaloka to find her a suitable husband. He waited there for what seemed like moments while Brahma listened to some music. When Brahma finished, he told the king that 27 Chaturayugas had passed on Earth. Everyone the king had known was long dead. The very people he had considered as possible husbands for his daughter had been gone for ages. This understanding of time explains why contact with otherworldly beings often seems brief yet profound. A vision that lasts seconds can contain lifetimes of wisdom. Beings from other realms can appear suddenly, deliver their message, and vanish just as quickly. From their perspective, they may have spent long periods preparing for this brief contact. The cyclical nature of time also means that the same events repeat across cosmic ages. What happens in one kalpa happens again in the next. The same souls take birth, the same conflicts arise, and the same resolutions occur. This repetition allows beings from different time cycles to meet and interact. Time serves as the bridge connecting all worlds. Through meditation and spiritual practice, consciousness can transcend the limitations of linear time. Advanced beings move freely through time as others move through space. They can see past, present, and future as a single unified reality. The texts teach that time is not fixed but responds to consciousness. Pure awareness can slow time or speed it up. This is why yogis in deep meditation can remain motionless for months while experiencing vast inner journeys. Their consciousness travels through time while their bodies rest in the present moment. Part 4. Beings without bodies. The philosophical idea of conscious entities. Beings without bodies. The philosophical idea of conscious entities. The great teachers of the Nyaya school questioned whether mind could exist without flesh. They asked, can there be knowing without a body to know with? Their debates reached deep into the nature of existence itself. Some argued that consciousness needs matter to hold it, like water needs a pot. Others declared that awareness itself is the true substance, needing no physical form to be real. The Vedanta masters taught that the ultimate reality is pure consciousness. They said all beings are waves in this ocean of awareness. The body is like clothing worn by the soul, not the soul itself. When the clothing falls away, the soul remains whole and complete. These masters spoke of beings who had never worn physical bodies at all, existing as pure mind and awareness. In their view, such beings move through space not with limbs but with intention. They think themselves from place to place. They communicate not through words but through direct knowing. Their thoughts become reality without the delay of physical action. These beings of pure consciousness know all things instantly, for they are consciousness itself looking at its own nature. The Samkhya philosophers divided all existence into two parts, pure awareness and primal matter. They taught that awareness never changes, while matter constantly shifts and transforms. Most beings are mixtures of both, but some beings are pure awareness alone. These conscious entities have transcended all material bonds. They exist in dimensions made of thought rather than substance. Such beings can observe the material world, but are not bound by its rules. They see through time as clearly as we see through air. Distance means nothing to them, for consciousness has no size or location. They can be present everywhere at once or nowhere at all. Physical laws cannot touch them because they exist beyond the physical realm entirely. The ancient texts describe encounters with these bodiless intelligences. Sages in deep meditation would meet beings of pure light and knowing. These entities would share wisdom that came not as words, but as direct understanding. They existed as living knowledge, conscious libraries of cosmic truth. Their very presence would transform the seeker's awareness. Some texts suggest these beings once had bodies, but evolved beyond the need for them. Others claim they were never physical at all, born directly from cosmic consciousness. Both types exist as communities of pure mind, working together through shared awareness, rather than physical cooperation. The philosophers argued whether such beings could act in the physical world. Some said they could influence matter through focused consciousness. Others claimed they remained forever separate from material reality. All agreed that these entities represented the highest possibility of existence, consciousness freed from all limitations. Part 5. The Subtle Kingdoms, Ghosts, Pretas, and Parallel Planes of Existence. The sacred texts speak of beings who dwell between worlds, neither fully here nor fully gone. These are the Pretas, the Bhutas, and countless other subtle entities who exist in the spaces where life meets death, where the seen touches the unseen. The Pretas are those who left their bodies but could not leave their desires. They wander near the earth, hungry for what they once knew. Their forms are thin like smoke, visible only to those whose sight has been opened. They cannot taste food as living beings do, yet they hunger always. They cannot touch as bodies touch, yet they long for connection. The ancient wisdom teaches that when a person dies with strong attachments, with debts unpaid, or love unexpressed, they may not travel to the higher worlds. Instead, they remain caught between planes of existence. These beings are not evil, merely incomplete. Their journey to the next realm waits until their earthly ties are resolved. The Bhutas are different spirits, often bound to places where strong emotions once lived. A house where great joy or sorrow happened, a tree where lovers met, a battlefield where warriors fell. These locations hold impressions that conscious beings can inhabit. The Bhutas exist in these emotional echoes, experiencing fragments of past events over and over. Hindu families have always known these beings exist alongside us. They prepare food offerings for ancestors, light lamps for wandering spirits, and speak prayers that reach across the boundary between worlds. This is not superstition, but recognition of a fundamental truth. Consciousness continues in many forms, and some of those forms remain close to human life. The texts describe how certain people can see these subtle beings clearly. Those who practice spiritual disciplines, who fast and meditate, often develop sight that penetrates the veils between dimensions. They report entire communities of spirits living parallel lives, going about their business in spaces that overlap our own, yet remain mostly hidden. These subtle kingdoms operate by different laws than our physical world. Time moves strangely there. A spirit might experience the same day repeatedly, or live through decades in what seems like moments to us. Distance has little meaning when beings can travel by intention rather than walking. Communication happens through direct transfer of feeling and thought rather than words. The wise ones taught that these parallel existences prove consciousness takes countless forms. Just as we share the earth with animals, plants, and countless tiny creatures we cannot see, we share existence itself with beings made of suppler substance than flesh and bone. When modern people speak of parallel dimensions or alternate realities, the ancient Hindu understanding already included such possibilities. The cosmos was never seen as empty space with rare pockets of life, but as densely populated with conscious beings existing at different levels of subtlety. Some beings need physical bodies like ours, others exist in energy forms, and still others dwell in pure awareness itself. This knowledge shaped how Hindus lived their daily lives. They understood that their actions, thoughts, and emotions could affect not only other humans, but also the subtle beings who shared their space. A house filled with anger might attract troubled spirits, while a home filled with peace and prayer would welcome helpful ones. The teachings remind us that death is not an end but a transition. Some beings transition smoothly to higher realms, others get caught in the spaces between, and still others choose to remain near the physical world to complete unfinished business or help those still in bodies. Chapter 4. Reimagining the Cosmic Neighbors in the Modern Age, Part 1. The Ancient Astronaut Hypothesis in Hindu Myths. In the sacred texts of our ancestors, we find descriptions that make modern minds pause and wonder. The Mahabharata speaks of flying machines called Vimanas that moved through the skies with great speed. These were not simple chariots, but vehicles that could travel vast distances and appear in many places. Ravana possessed the Pushpaka Vimana, which could fly anywhere its owner wished to go. This great vehicle could change its size and move through the air without effort. The text tells us it shone like the sun and made sounds like thunder as it moved across the heavens. When Rama saw it, he was amazed by its beauty and power. The gods would descend from their realms in bright vehicles that lit up the entire sky. These divine beings arrived with such radiance that mortals could barely look upon them. Their vehicles moved without wheels or animals to pull them. They traveled between worlds as easily as we walk from one room to another. In the Great War described in the Mahabharata, we read of weapons that could destroy entire armies with a single blast. These were not ordinary arrows or swords, but forces that created light brighter than 1,000 suns. The earth would shake and mountains would crumble when such weapons were used. The text describes battles that took place not just on earth, but in the sky above. Warriors fought while moving through the air in their flying vehicles. These battles created storms and changed the very appearance of the heavens. Common people would see lights moving across the sky and hear sounds that came from no earthly source. When the gods wished to speak with mortals, they would appear suddenly, often arriving in vehicles that defied normal understanding. These beings possessed knowledge far beyond what humans knew. They could travel instantly between distant places and had powers over nature itself. The ancient texts tell us that beings from other worlds have always known about our Earth. They have watched over humanity and sometimes chose to interact with us directly. These encounters were recorded by those who witnessed them, passed down through generations as sacred knowledge. Some of these celestial beings took human form and lived among people for a time. They taught great wisdom and showed capabilities that seemed impossible. Yet the texts present these events not as fantasies, but as actual happenings that shaped the course of human history. The scriptures describe a universe filled with countless worlds, each inhabited by different kinds of beings. Travel between these worlds was possible for those who possessed the right knowledge and vehicles. The boundaries we imagine between earth and sky, between our world and others, were not barriers to these advanced beings. Part 2. UFOs in the Epics, reading the Mahabharata and Ramayana anew. In the great epics, we find detailed accounts of flying vehicles that moved through the skies with powers beyond ordinary understanding. The Pushpaka Vimana of Ravana was described as a magnificent aerial chariot that could travel vast distances in moments. This vehicle was not pulled by horses or birds, but moved by its own inner power, carrying many passengers across the heavens with ease. The texts tell us this flying palace was decorated with gold and precious stones, making sounds like thunder as it passed through the clouds. It could change its size according to need and travel to any realm the pilot desired. When Ravana used it to carry Sita away, the vehicle moved so swiftly that mountains and forests passed below like tiny marks on the earth. In the battles described in the Mahabharata, warriors fought using weapons that blazed with fire and light, striking targets from great distances. These divine weapons, called Astras, were given by celestial beings to chosen warriors. The Brahmastra could destroy entire armies and leave the land barren for generations. When released, it created a brightness like 1,000 suns rising at once. The epic describes aerial battles where divine chariots moved through the sky, launching weapons that created explosions and trails of light. Arjuna received a celestial chariot from Indra that could fly through the heavens and fight against demons in their own aerial vehicles. These sky battles involved formations of flying chariots, tactical movements through the clouds, and weapons that could seek their targets across great distances. The texts describe beings who came from other worlds in vehicles that shone like fire. They wore armor that protected them from all weapons and carried devices that could see events happening far away. Some could make themselves invisible or change their appearance at will. These visitors possessed knowledge of sciences unknown to humans and could control forces of nature. During the Great War, Krishna revealed his cosmic form to Arjuna, showing countless worlds and beings existing in different dimensions of reality. The vision included advanced civilizations, beings of light, and technologies that surpassed human understanding. This revelation suggested that what humans saw as miraculous was merely ordinary capability for beings from higher realms. The ancient texts treat these accounts not as imagination, but as history. They describe precise details of how these vehicles operated, the sounds they made, their appearance, and their capabilities. The writers recorded measurements, described the materials used in construction, and explained the principles by which they functioned. These descriptions, when read with modern understanding, present remarkable similarities to contemporary accounts of advanced aerial phenomena. The precision of detail, the technological sophistication described, and the matter-of-fact tone used by the ancient writers suggests they were recording actual observations rather than creating fantasy stories. Part 3. Modern Yogis on Cosmic Civilizations. The great spiritual teachers of modern times have spoken clearly about beings who live beyond our world. They describe vast communities of intelligent life that exist throughout the cosmos, watching and guiding human progress from distant realms. Sri Aurobindo taught that evolution moves upward through many levels of consciousness. He explained that advanced beings on higher planes work constantly to help humanity grow. These entities possess wisdom far beyond our current understanding. They communicate through subtle means with those who have developed the capacity to receive their guidance. Aurobindo described these cosmic intelligences as natural parts of creation's plan, not strange visitors from outside. Paramahansa Yogananda spoke of masters who had transcended physical limitations. He taught that such perfected souls could travel instantly between worlds and dimensions. These beings maintain connection with Earth while dwelling in states of pure consciousness. Yogananda explained that many yogis throughout history had established contact with these cosmic teachers. The relationship between human disciples and celestial guides represents a normal part of spiritual development. The Theosophical movement brought forward detailed accounts of planetary hierarchies. Helena Blavatsky and her followers described organized communities of advanced souls governing cosmic evolution. They taught that beings from Venus, Jupiter, and other worlds participate actively in Earth's spiritual progress. These entities work through human agents and appear directly when needed. The Theosophical teachings present interplanetary cooperation as fundamental to universal law. Yogic literature consistently describes visions of populated realms beyond physical space. Practitioners who achieve deep meditation often report encounters with luminous beings. These entities appear as teachers, guides, and guardians of cosmic wisdom. They inhabit planes of existence that interpenetrate our material world. Advanced yogis learn to travel consciously to these subtle dimensions and receive instruction from their inhabitants. Modern Hindu teachers explain that cosmic beings differ from material aliens. These intelligences exist primarily in energy bodies rather than physical forms. They can manifest physically when necessary, but prefer to work through inspiration and direct mind-to-mind contact. Their influence shapes human civilization through ideas, discoveries, and spiritual awakenings rather than technology transfer. The tradition views such contact as completely natural. Hindu cosmology has always assumed that countless forms of intelligent life fill the universe. The appearance of cosmic teachers in human experience fulfills ancient expectations rather than introducing foreign concepts. Yoga provides systematic methods for developing sensitivity to these subtle communications. Contemporary Hindu thought bridges ancient wisdom with modern space-age thinking. Teachers like Aurobindo interpreted traditional concepts through evolutionary science while maintaining core spiritual principles. They showed how Hindu cosmology anticipated scientific discoveries about the vastness and complexity of the universe. Their work demonstrates that seeking contact with cosmic intelligences represents a return to humanity's original relationship with the living cosmos. Part 4. Science and Myth Collide. Space-Age Reflections on Hindu Cosmology. The ancient seers spoke of endless worlds spinning through time and space. They described realms beyond count, each filled with beings of different forms and powers. Today, when our metal birds carry us beyond the sky and our eyes peer at distant suns, these old teachings speak with new meaning. The sacred texts tell us that time moves in great circles. What seems like thousands of years to us may pass as single days in other worlds. Modern science now speaks of time bending and stretching, just as the wise ones taught long ago. When we measure how light travels across vast distances, we find that time itself changes. This matches what the scriptures always said about different speeds of time in different places. The ancient books described flying vehicles that move faster than thought. They tell of weapons that split atoms and release the power hidden in matter. They speak of beings who can appear and disappear at will. When we read these passages today, after witnessing atomic power and space travel, the words carry fresh weight. What once seemed like imagination now sounds like advanced technology. Our telescopes have found thousands of worlds circling distant stars. Some of these worlds might hold water and life. The old teachings never showed surprise at this idea. They always assumed that countless forms of life fill every corner of creation. The sages taught that intelligent beings exist throughout all levels of reality, from the densest matter to the most subtle energy. The sacred geography describes multiple layers of existence. Some beings live in forms denser than ours, while others exist in bodies made of light and energy. Modern physics speaks of dimensions we cannot see and particles that exist in multiple states at once. These discoveries echo the ancient understanding of reality as far more complex than what our senses reveal. When space scientists search for signals from other civilizations, they follow paths that Hindu cosmology mapped long ago. The difference lies in approach. Where science looks outward with instruments, the yoga tradition looks inward through meditation. Both methods seek contact with intelligence beyond our ordinary experience. The ancient texts treat encounters with cosmic beings as natural events. They describe how advanced civilizations guide younger ones through critical phases of growth. This teaching suggests that contact with otherworldly intelligence represents not invasion, but assistance. The universe operates through networks of conscious beings who share knowledge across vast distances of space and time. Our modern search for extraterrestrial life becomes less about finding aliens and more about reconnecting with our cosmic family. The Hindu view presents humanity not as isolated on a single planet, but as part of an infinite community of conscious beings exploring existence together through countless forms and worlds. Part 5. Hinduism's Eternal View: Humans Among Infinite Civilizations. In the sacred texts of our ancient tradition, we find a profound truth written across countless verses and stories. The universe never contains just one world or one type of being. Brahma creates infinite worlds where countless forms of life exist together. The Vedas speak clearly about this eternal reality. In the Rig Veda, seers declare that many worlds exist beyond our sight. They describe beings who live in the sky realms, the earth realms, and the water realms. These are not empty spaces, but homes to different types of conscious beings. The Puranas teach us about the 14 Lokas, or worlds that stretch from the lowest to the highest planes of existence. In each Loka, different beings live according to their nature and karma. The Devas inhabit the higher worlds with bodies of light. The Asuras create their own civilizations in other dimensions. The Nagas build great cities beneath the earth and in the ocean depths. Our scriptures never suggest that humans are the only intelligent beings in creation. The Mahabharata describes how great warriors and sages regularly meet with beings from other worlds. Arjuna travels to the realm of the Devas and learns from them. Bhima encounters the Rakshasas, who possess their own kingdoms and cultures. The Ramayana shows us Ravana's Lanka, a civilization more advanced than any human city. These beings possessed flying vehicles, powerful weapons, and knowledge of sciences unknown to ordinary humans. The text presents them not as impossible fantasies, but as natural parts of a vast cosmos. The Bhagavata Purana speaks of planets where beings live for thousands of years with abilities far beyond human capacity. Some worlds contain beings smaller than atoms. Others house giants who span multiple solar systems. Each world operates according to its own natural laws and cycles of time. Krishna himself confirms this cosmic diversity when he tells Arjuna that he appears in many forms across many worlds. The divine consciousness expresses itself through countless species and civilizations. What we call aliens or extraterrestrials are simply our cosmic neighbors living their own dharmic paths. The great Rishis understood that consciousness creates infinite varieties of embodied life. They saw through yogic vision that every corner of space contains some form of aware beings. The universe pulses with intelligence at every level, from the microscopic to the cosmic. This ancient wisdom places humanity within a great family of conscious beings. We share the cosmos with entities more advanced than us, and others still developing their awareness. Some guide us from subtle planes. Others explore physical space in ways we are only beginning to understand. The Vedic seers never taught that Earth stands alone in an empty universe. They described a cosmos where every star system contains worlds suited for different types of beings. They understood that life expresses itself in forms we cannot yet imagine, across distances we cannot yet measure. This teaching remains as true today as when first revealed to the ancient sages. We are never alone because the cosmic mind creates infinite expressions of itself. The search for other intelligences in space simply helps us remember what our ancestors always knew about our place in the eternal community of conscious beings.